Hello, everybody. Today is Sunday, June 28th, 2026. This is Gen X Speaks. And today I want to talk about kind of what I'm seeing on social media lately is that there are a number of people that are coming out with videos that are talking about how they think there's been the tide is changing, and that there's been in a fundamental shift in American uh, viewpoints and where things are going or whatever, because there have been some, in these non-election day races, these kind of off election races around the country, there have been a number of Democrats. First of all, Democrats have won largely. And secondly, non-establishment Democrats are winning. And these are usually in local races. For example, New York City recently, they just had a number of non-establishment Dems win, and it was touted as a great success for progressivism. Um, and I've made no bones about the fact that I consider myself progressive. I do not consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. I don't consider myself any real political affiliation at all in the United States or anywhere else, other than to call myself progressive. And what I mean when I say I'm progressive is that I want to see things move in for the better. Progression. I see you take problems and you fix them. Um, and I believe that everyone in this country, regardless of their social stature, regardless of their race, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender, um, deserves a fair shake. And that is basic, my very basic um, political view. Um, However, a lot of people are coming out and saying, "Oh, the tides are changing," and they're kind of getting excited about it and praising. And I don't want to be the bubble burster, but I don't think it's really that easy. Um, and I'll explain why. First of all, you have a good 30% of people in the United States who are MAGA. They're diehard MAGA. They're ignorant. They are mean spirited. They are, um, you know, bigoted in various ways, and they are willing to own everyone just to make them feel better about themselves. Um, you have about 30% of Americans who are just diehard MAGA, okay, and they will follow these idiots in our government to the ends of the earth. There is nothing more powerful than the human ego. They will burn down the world to prove that they're right or to not seem as though they're wrong. Um, so, first of all, you have that one problem. The other major problem I see, and there are some minor problems, and before I talk about the major problem, I'll talk about some of the other minor problems. Obviously, there's the minor problems of Christian nationalism, which a lot of people consider a major one. Christian nationalism, white supremacy, just various bigotry around the country. But the second major problem I think we have, aside from 30% MAGA, is that there are a great number of middle class and upper class white people in this country who still are the majority of the voting public in this country, um, who aren't completely sold on progressivism. There's still a lot. And there's a reason for this, and I'm here to talk about that reason, what I think that reason might be. And I've talked about it before, I've touched on it before in some videos, but that reasoning to me is that they're afraid of losing what they've accumulated. The problem with the United States is we have no safety nets. Right now, we have the World Cup going on, and every nation represented in the World Cup has universal health care except us, except the United States. Every single nation has some form of universal health care. We have none. That's just one example. In many ways, many of them financial, we have no safety nets. Okay. This is not a country that provides any guarantees for people, whether they should be guaranteed or not. Everyone should be guaranteed air and water, clean air and water and utilities and health care and education. Things like that are lost on a lot of people in this country. They don't believe those are rights. There are a number of prominent politicians out there right now who do not believe, on both sides, who don't believe healthcare is a right. Um, and so that's a problem. But the problem I want to touch on here is that people in the middle and upper classes who normally would have a heart are forced to be concerned that they may lose this idea. They're brainwashed into this idea that democratic socialism or social democracy or socialism, whatever you want to call it, will take away everything they've earned. And they've earned that because they are trying to protect themselves from the disaster that could render them poor. And that's the problem when you have a country that doesn't have any safeguards, is that you're always one disaster away from the poorhouse. So in the minds of people who have put aside money, they don't want to lose it. I'm one of those people. We're one of those people. Now, I'm different in that I don't fall into this brainwashing category. I understand that it's not, the bigger problem has to be the people with the massive amounts of wealth. They're the ones who need to pay. It's not the people who are just trying to save up their nest egg to provide a little bit of generational wealth so that their children aren't on the street in the future, or that they themselves, if they have a medical problem, aren't on the street. It's not those people, but those are the people they've gotten to. Those are the people who fear losing their nest egg the most. It's not the wealthy people. The wealthy people are just greedy. They just want more. And they get angry at the idea that someone with less might be taking any piece of their pie. That's the bottom line. So you have those two categories, and they're mostly white people. Now, not to say that there's certainly people of color in that same category. But again, it's a major problem. So the bottom line here is I don't think it's very cut and dry that we're going to be able to boot the status quo. At least not so easily. It's not going to be overnight, number one. And that discourages people. Because we'll come through another election. Let's say the Democrats take everything, the House and Senate next year, or this year in 2026. And we don't end up getting everything that everyone who's progressive on the left wants. Then they start losing heart. But you can't. You can't lose heart. You have to work at this. And it has to be constant, all the time. Democracy only works if you're involved. Bottom line, you can't just say, oh, we voted these people in, now we just leave it up to them to do it. No, that's not how it works. It's constant. It's constant maintenance, and you have to be involved. And that's really all I wanted to say today, is that I don't get your hopes up that this is all going to change overnight. It's going to be a tough fight, and you have to be there to fight it. Have a good Sunday.